Hospitality technology isn't just for the big pub players. Family-owned tech provider Zonal has worked with operators big and small for more than 40 years to help operators cut costs and run efficient businesses that provide memorable experiences and boost the bottom line. Zonal is a trusted BII partner, and we are delighted to be working with them on this new podcast series, highlighting some of the best licensees in the business. For more information about what Zonal's technology can do for your pub, please do visit their website. I'm delighted to be joined this morning by Ollie Coulombeau from the Turk's Head in Twickenham. Good morning, Ollie.
Good morning. Nice to be here.
Oh, well, thank you. Thanks for sparing us the time. I know you're incredibly busy, as you always are. So just to give you a bit of an introduction, Ollie is one of our Licensee of the Year finalists from this year. So we have known him in over the last kind of 6 months, I suppose, and found out more and more as he progressed through the competition. But Ollie, tell us a little bit about you and the Turk's Head.
So the Turk's Head is a beautiful corner pub in leafy St Margaret's in West London, which is about halfway between Richmond and Twickenham. It's really very much a community pub and has a huge amount of local support and a big team of kind of 40, 50 plus for most of the year. Obviously, our location near Twickenham means that on rugby match days, we're a pretty special place. And it's a place that really puts its people and their development at heart. And a lot of our team grew up drinking and obviously not drinking, but visiting the pub with their family and eventually drinking, I have to say. But they're now sort of key members of our team, management, and they are very much a key part of who we are and our identity. Our big kind of philosophy is that we'd like to be the pub that everyone wishes was their local pub, and that the people who we are their local pub are proud of that fact.
Amazing. So obviously you've told us it's a community pub, lots of locals, lots of people who have grown up eating with their families and then drinking when they obviously come of age, and now working with you, which is fantastic. But obviously the flip side is that kind of, I don't know if you'd call it a tourist, but I guess maybe the transient kind of, just coming in for match days. So tell us about what that does for your capacity in terms of your normal trading versus a match day.
Yes, I mean, we obviously have our geographically local community. And then we also have several other families, communities who come to us for various reasons. The biggest and the most transformative, I suppose, is when England play at Twickenham and 82,000 people come into the local area. And we offer pre and post game corporate areas. We have had some people who've been coming to us for over 35 years to transform that. I suppose the yardstick will be that we take in a day what sometimes we would take in a week. It's absolutely huge. Our team swells from 45 to 75, 80 people. People from Fuller's head office come and work for us. People from other pubs come and help us out. Some of our team, their mums and dads, come and pour pints for us. They're really special days, and they're mental, and we have to plan for months for each one, but it's the biggest rush you can get there.
I was going to say, the planning for that must be absolutely phenomenal. You can't just go, oh, it's match day tomorrow. Have we got enough beer? Don't know. Like, you must have to.
No. I mean, for the Island game, we have 100 kegs of Guinness in the cellar.
Wow.
Yeah, it is.
Have you ever run out?
So I should admit to this, but my very first Island game, when I took over this pub, I had to get a friend to go and rent a van to go and borrow some Guinness from some other pubs, because everyone said, you'll be mental busy, it's Guinness, it's going to be great. And sort of once the game kicked off, we realised we only had about 10 or 12 kegs left. And so luckily I had a really good friend with a driving licence who went and hired a van and went and picked me up a load of Guinness from some very generous local pubs who are willing to take pity on the new boy on the block.
I'm sure your personable charm worked its magic.
Yeah.
We loved getting to know you at the Licensee of the Year award. You're a hugely fun person to be around, but also you can tell how passionate you are about your business and your people. And I'm sure that people do you lots of favours because of that.
Yeah, and we try and help back again. It's
that's what it's all about.
Yeah, and West London is a fantastic sort of area to be in. It's a real pub culture. The community around there are pub people, and we all, pub watch and alike are very active in that area. So we all know each other, and we all try and help out whenever we can.
Fantastic.
So great thing to be a part of. Yeah.
So how long have you been at the Turk's Head? And it's worth pointing out that you are a manager, and some of our members are managers, some are tenants or lessees, but you are a manager of a Fuller's pub. How long have you been there?
Yeah, so the Turk's is a managed house. I've been at the Turk's Head for 4.5 years, but I've worked for Fuller's for 9 years now, and through a variety of different pubs, and also some time in their hotels as well. But yeah, I'll be hitting 4.5 years, including obviously the slight downtime that a global pandemic threw at us, of course.
Sure, but we won't talk about that because it's been and gone
No.
now. It's all done. It's all done. So where were you before you joined Fuller's? Have you always been in hospitality?
So yeah, I mean, I'm literally that guy who became a pot washer when he was 16 to make some money, and kind of quite like the theatre of the back of house. I worked in a not so little actually, but a little restaurant. And then all my time through uni, I kind of supplemented my student loan with working in hospitality. And eventually when I left university, I was working out what to do. I went and trained in how to cook and became a chef for a little while. And then kind of after I was working in a few kitchens, I still had that interest at front of house as well. And luckily I found Fuller's, who had a graduate trainee scheme, which allowed you to kind of fast track through pub management and get some amazing mentoring and, from really highly seasoned professionals in a very kind of intensive fast track way. And I suppose since then I haven't looked back. So it was really fortuitous. Yeah.
If my maths is right, then in your kind of mid to late 20s, you were managing your own massive pub just outside of Twickenham, which is quite something. And I think it's something that maybe most people in our industry are aware of, but maybe not everybody, but certainly outside of our industry, to rise that quickly through, from starting as pot washer when you're 16 through to managing your own mega venue is a huge thing to be able to do.
Yeah, and it's super exciting, and I would love to sit here and say I'm responsible and can take all the credit, but I've been super fortunate in meeting and working with some amazing people who have continued and still continue, by the way, to advise me and to counsel me. And my recent experience with the BII and the Licensee of the Year competition, meeting my fellow finalists, already several of those guys are in touch constantly. I met a couple of the previous winners, and that's what we do, is we share experience, we share advice. It's not a competitive thing. It's about everyone becoming better together. And inside Fuller's, there's very much that culture as well, which is, I try and do a bit of it now myself wherever I can. If there's a new manager or a manager who's struggling, we're stronger together, and hospitality is stronger with us all working in the same direction, which is let's be the best we can.
Absolutely. I've certainly never worked in such a collaborative industry, and everybody's willing to share their experiences and their gotchas, their mistakes, and saying, don't do this because I made that mistake. And you probably go, yeah, whatever, and you go and do it anyway. But, it's nice to have the advice. So talking about work and teams, obviously you say you have a huge team, 40 to 50 people at any one time, swelling to kind of 80 on match days. And a big part of your success in the Licensee of the Year competition was your attitude to people and their development and their training. So tell us a bit about what that looks like at the Turk's Head.
So I think the Turk's is really special in this way, and it's partly to do with what we spoke about before, that a lot of the team are connected to the pub geographically to start with only. It is that idea of I'll get a job at 18. But one of the big things for me, having actually been to university, is now how much of a viable career choice hospitality is as an alternative to university, or in my case, as an addition to university.
Yeah.
And it's kind of, we're not talking about the time where we all had a few months to sit there and think and plan what we really wanted to do moving forward. I spent a lot of my time in 2020 thinking about people and thinking about the sort of boss and the sort of business I wanted to run. And having 6 months to think about that and plan that, and also with some of the developments that have come since with regards to apprenticeships, where people can now get formal qualifications, and pass, we call it the mum and dad test, which is that not only is it a pub job, it's a pub job with formal qualifications attached. I really thought that before 2020, I probably wasn't doing enough to continually develop my team and offer them the opportunities to pursue hospitality, not just as a stopgap or as a money job or any of those other ideas, but as viable a career as I'm experiencing, and if not more. There are so many more opportunities now than there was even 10, 15 years ago when I started, to not just progress quickly, but to achieve some really special things, and to do it with, in my humble opinion, the most amazing type of person that walks the earth, which is those who work in hospitality. And so at the Turks, we have kind of almost an opt-out policy with regards to development. We assume that you would like to develop rather than you have to ask us for development.
Yeah,
we're obviously very blessed with Fuller's internal progression schemes, but we go above and beyond that in quite a big way. And that's not just on a professional level, but also on a pastoral level. We have live-in accommodation, which is currently full of managers and chefs who are on development pathways. Because we don't want to just develop people who become really good at their job. We want to develop people who are happy and who are ambitious and who are really good humans as well. And a big part of this is we've, over the last 18 months, really started to use a couple of listening tools where anonymously our team can give us feedback and can tell us how they are, tell us how they think they're going, what they want. And when we first started, I'll be really honest, it wasn't the easiest process in the world, because you could kind of think everything's great and we're rocking and rolling, and then you read the feedback and you think, oh God, that's not at all what I thought it was. But I suppose the culmination of the last 18 months of work has been actually listening and acting upon that feedback, so that we're not giving our team what we think they need, we're giving our team what they want, and maybe applying a little bit of sense checking and a little bit of experience in order to drive it in the right direction and use the right resources. But at the Turks, everyone's development is very much led by them. And that could be upwards, downwards, sideways. But really, we're there, and my managers, the guys who really run the Turks and run the team on a daily basis, spend a huge amount of their time one-to-one with the team, making sure that their development needs are being met.
Fantastic. So in terms of official training then, I know we've spoken before about not only just the kind of personal development and the one-to-ones that you spoke about, but also digital training. It sounds like that's something that is a complementary thing alongside the actual qualifications and the one-to-ones that you offer. So can you tell us a bit more about how you use that in the business? Yeah,
so we have an app which provides access to several different learning platforms. There's a suite called Good Habits with a Z at the end, which I don't know if you know it, but it's an incredible suite of programs. It goes from basic skills such as tying your shoelaces or tying a tie, all the way through to some really quite advanced digital stuff like how to use Microsoft suites, how to program. And these are free to any of our staff to kind of upskill in 20-minute sections. So I'm sure I can say this, but you can do it sitting on the loo, you can do it on a bus, you can kind of, whenever you want, you can dial in, we offer it free of charge. There's a lot of stuff on there which is kind of in the bracket of, you might be embarrassed to ask someone how to do this. So, real life example, a couple of the guys who worked for me, we had a staff party that we did black tie for, and we worked out that because they'd been to a school that didn't have ties, they didn't know how to tie a tie. And I think that's a really important part, that we offer them the chance to just log on their phone and practice tying a tie if they want, all the way through to Microsoft Word, Excel, PowerPoint, how to use some of our digital systems that we use in the pub, and advance their skills on not just the kind of staff-facing elements, but also the back office elements. And alongside that, we have we're big users of WhatsApp and WhatsApp groups in our pub, and we do our own in-house videos of anything as basic as this is a new cocktail, this is what it needs to look like, all the way through to if we identify that something isn't going right. And it's normally digital, let's be honest. There's a better way of doing this. There's a way we can do this that's better. We'll share that best practice in video formats. Again, that can be watched as many times as it needs to be and also used as a how-to guide. So we've got this fantastic app that we use and has Fuller's dial-in, and there might be a big push in Fuller's for summer of spritz, or there might be a drive on a new beer, but they can also access all of that, and they can do it from their phone or their computer, and that works really well.
I would just like to say at this point, it sounds like that Ollie's getting beaten up, but I can promise listeners that he's not. He's just he's probably a good point to introduce what you're actually doing at the moment, because you're not at the Turk's Head while we record this, are you, Ollie? Where are you?
I'm not. I'm at a beautiful pub in Kew called 1 over the 8, which is the Fuller's pub, which is currently undergoing a revamp, and we're staying open while we revamp it. Everyone should definitely come down. It's going to be one of the highlights of the Kew Bridge area. But what you can hear that sounds like me being beaten up is our chefs currently preparing for a cook-off. And I believe the loud noise that you just heard was a chef. was a chef not being very happy with the table that we were going to present on, so changing the table. But we're having great fun here. The team's amazing. We've got a brilliant new general manager here called Jerry, and kind of the pub relaunch is a week today. So we're in that sort of really intense time where everyone's bringing everything together.
Exciting. So by the time this actually reaches people's ears, the pub will be open. So get yourselves down to 1 over the 8 for a drink and to sample some of the amazing food that's clearly been through cook-off phases as well. So just want to touch a little bit more on technology, because we've talked about some of the things that you use to help training your staff. What else in your business couldn't you do without from a tech perspective? What makes your life easier and better?
Oh, well, I mean, our entire till system, which is provided by Zonal, is brilliant. And we don't just use fixed till points. We also use iPads, which has totally revolutionized the way that our customer journey, really, and the way we serve people. The iPads allow us to do everything you could do on a till, but from table side, they look stylish, they look great. It's absolutely phenomenal. We also have what we call an order and pay solution. Most people will recognize it by the QR codes that you scan. And we not only use that kind of in our main pub area, but we found a way to use it with regards to our events. So we do a lot of events at the Turks, which are theatre style sorts of comedy events. Mm-hmm. And what it allows people to do is to grab a number and identifier effectively. And we have some glow in the dark ones on their way in. And then using their phone, they can order to their seat. So Amazing. It stops the queues at the bar. It gives a little bit of a flow. It's quite a fun little thing that we do. But order and pay, throughout its entire history, has just helped us innovate and get better at what we do. We also obviously use digital platforms for our online booking, as well as some of the bits that I've talked about with regards to what we do with our people. And the more and more we work at it, the more we're trying to sync it into a centralized form where we can use it from our phones, from our work computers. Even now, we found a way recently that we can have our booking system added to any till.
Amazing.
Yeah, you can effectively use the Zonal system like a PC monitor, so you can have a keyboard attached. And what it means is when a customer comes in and says they've got a booking, there's not that awkward kind of hiatus where someone says, let me get someone or let me go and check. They can press a button and they can access our online booking system on that till at that point. Which is, I think just really adds some polish to the whole customer journey as they come in.
So the rise of technology, particularly kind of throughout the pandemic and beyond, has been huge. But there's this big conversation going on about, is it helping us, or is it getting rid of the personalised approach of having team members and going to the bar to order your drinks? But it sounds like from the way that you guys are utilising it is that you're taking kind of all the pain elements out and helping people to kind of order directly using the tech, but still facilitating that consumer kind of experience and having the teams come and bring the drinks over, and then they can have conversations about other things rather than having to sort of do tick box exercises. Have you found that customers like the new tech approach and now they're used to it more?
I think we're still learning every day about how customers are kind of evolving their use of tech. We did, going back a year or so, kind of we mapped out our touch points on the customer journey. I think we found about 14 or 15 from memory about interactions with a member of staff from the front door through to paying your bill and leaving, and worked out that actually, even if you go full hog with a QR code, that there's actually, it only reduces it by 2 or 3. Mm-hmm. And so the approach for us has not been about replacing those touch points with technology. It's about can the technology improve the efficiency of what we're doing, either from our perspective or the customer's perspective, or in some cases, can it actually enhance it? One of the things we've found with our order and pay solution is that we're getting a much wider spread of products. People who are able to scan on their phone and browse and have a look at certain products, that it might be that we've designed it in such a way they're steered towards those products.
Yeah.
But we're getting a much wider spread than just house gins or just house vodkas or just house wines. People are browsing and people are having a much deeper look, I think, interestingly, on their phones or their tablets than they are when you give them a wine list, or especially when they walk up to the bar and you know, someone says, "What can I get you?"
Yeah, and if it's a busy bar or if it's a really big bar, which I'm assuming that you have several of us at the Turk's Head, you can't see everything, no matter how well you display it all. So you end up just asking for that house gin and tonic, or asking for a pint of whatever the lager is that you can see in front of you. So yeah, I hadn't really thought about it from that point of view. I mean, I've had sort of positive and negative experiences with order and pay where you go in and everything's unavailable on the app, and then you end up just going, I know that's not true, I just know it's not true. So you go to the bar and they're there, or vice versa, it's available on the app and then they come out and go, sorry. So I guess it's all about making sure that is as slicker a process as possible to get the most out of it.
Yeah, and I think the key to that, as with any innovation, is about staff buy-in. And we were really clear when we brought in order and pay that we wanted our team to become champions and ambassadors for this technology. And actually, at certain points, we've got quite a big garden, which we don't have a bar in the garden. So you can appreciate from a customer perspective then being able to receive table service, or even before you get table service, have this solution in place was really popular. And we actually saw an uplift in our trunk and service charge when we started bringing new systems in, which is a good, if not total, but a good vector of how appreciated it was by the customer. And of course, you have to make sure that everyone is on board, it's being managed correctly. But I think when the staff can see the benefits of it, better product range, happier customers, better tips, etc., then it's something that they're really willing to get behind. And it's certainly something that we want to try and keep evolving at the Turks, and seeing how far really we can push this involvement in technology and especially that QR code efficiency.
Brilliant. So we've talked about it very briefly, but let's just touch on Licensee of the Year award now that you were a part of with us this year. How did it feel for you? And tell us a bit about the process and some of your positives and negatives, if there are any.
So yeah, I mean, I applied because it was pointed out the Turks was in the Great British Pub Awards final. And we were contacted because we were finalists saying, you know, we'd love to have your application for the Licensee of the Year. And I didn't really know what to expect, to be honest. So I put my application in and kind of progressed through the phases. And I'm sure everyone listening to this will know, but if you don't, the Licensee of the Year competition is a marathon, not a sprint.
It's a good description.
There's lots of phases. There's lots of talking to the team and communicating about what it's about. It is a really, really thorough evaluation of your business, from the seller through to your business practices, your people management, your financials, and it all culminates in this kind of magical couple of days where the 6 finalists all got locked in Sky HQ and did this apprentice style sort of day of being interviewed and talked to by some absolute industry heavyweights. And I remember being super, super nervous on the day of the judging, mainly to meet my fellow finalists. But I couldn't have been more wrong. I'm still in touch with all of my finalists. A few of them are already friends for life. Joe and Flo, who I have to give a massive shout out to as the very, very worthy winners, kind of took me under their wing because I was on my own. They're in a management couple, kind of, and were disgustingly nice people, as well as fantastic operators. And you know, the help and support and the people I met on that judging day has really, really continued. And I'm taking every advantage I can to learn from not just my fellow finalists, but also the judges I met, some of the previous winners who are judges. And then we all went to a great big awards ceremony, which is just utterly mental, because it's like a who's who of the hospitality industry. They're kind of looking down the guest list of, what was it, 900 people or something like that? And you're going, oh, wow, no, I know that name. Oh, I know. Oh, God, I know that brand. I know that brand. And then, you know, because you're a finalist, you're kind of you're being spoiled and made a meal of. And it's just a magical couple of days for me. And the whole process, I'm so happy that I did apply in the first instance. And I couldn't encourage anyone any harder. If you're thinking about it, just put the application in and go for it, because my business is completely different now as a result of the Licensee of the Year process than it was at the start. And that's a positive thing, by the way, I should point that out as well. You know, I guess you can get to a certain level with a business on 4.5 years where, you know, there's an element of maybe a fear of stagnation and kind of, you know, we're doing the same things. This absolutely shook the tree for me, and we have changed so much and have got so much better in certain things that we're doing at each stage of the judging. So yeah, that's me. It's brilliant.
I wish you'd have been a bit more positive about it, Ollie. That was, you know.
the food's amazing at the final as well. The food's amazing.
Yeah, it really was fantastic food. Really enjoyed all of it. I mean, look, it's all of I think it's our favourite part of the job that we do, and it does take up a huge amount of our time and energy, particularly as we sort of career towards the end of the competition, sort of May onwards. But it genuinely is one of our favourite moments of the year, and it's so fantastic to see the friendships and the relationships that you guys as finalists form. And like you say, not only on a personal basis, but you know, you inspire each other in terms of your businesses. You share great best practice, and I know we'll be unpacking a lot more of that throughout the year. So looking forward to seeing you all again. So future plans for you then, Ollie, what's next for you on your journey?
Well, I mean, I've always loved working in pubs, and I don't plan to change that. I'm a pub person, if that makes sense. You know, where the Turks is at the moment, I'm in a really great position where I've got a successful business and capacity to go out a bit like I am today and help other people. And not just help people, but you know, you go along to help someone or give them some advice, and you end up learning a load yourself. I'm only in my mid-30s now. You know, I've got a lot more to learn. And I guess, you know, earlier this year I started my own apprenticeship, a level 5 apprenticeship, so to get back to some more formal learning, because eventually you got to practice what you preach, right?
Sadly.
Yeah. No, do you know what? It's great. It's really hard, but it's really rewarding. And I think now a lot of my focus is on developing myself, learning more and more, and getting out of my comfort zone as much as possible. And if I can share some advice and good practice, and even just make someone's day that little bit better in the meantime, then that's a win for me.
Amazing. We always round off these podcasts with a different question. It's the sort of final big question. And so I always wait until the end of the podcast to choose what I'm going to ask you. I'm going to ask you, what advice would you give to someone who's looking at going to university or not going to university and thinking about maybe starting a career in hospitality?
That is an excellent question. It wouldn't be one single piece of advice, but the biggest piece of advice would be about being really clear what your options are, and to make no assumptions based on what other people have told you. There are two paths there. The first is to go to university and experience formal education. What are you trying to achieve? If you want to be a doctor, you need to go to university. If you want to be a teacher, you need to do some formal learning in a classroom environment in order to get the qualification to do that. If you're not sure, then it would be a really good question to answer about why you're going to university. And if the answer is because I feel I should, then that's great. So then let's look at the other side, which is what can a career in hospitality or potentially any other career offer you. Especially over the last few years, the cost of going to university is rising. The number of people going to university is rising. The job market when you leave as a graduate is more and more taxing. And I always use, I won't name him because he'll blush, but there's a lad who works for me who's just turned 22. And he chose to come and work at the Turks. He got live-in accommodation at the Turks, which I'm sure everyone who's listening is aware, but basically where their accommodation and bills are paid for as part of their benefits package. He decided to do that in 2019. And so his friends all went off to university. We all know what their journey looked like over the last 3 years. Actually accumulated a large amount of debt. Didn't have the great experience or the experience that I went to university for, which was about living away from home for the first time. A lot of them didn't even live away from home. Whereas this young man, is on a job with a decent salary. He's got savings. He's managing a team, experience of managing a team of 40, 50 people, experience of managing a multi-million pound business. And he's the same age, and they all started from the same school. And it's always worth, while I can't guarantee everyone will get that path, I think there are a lot of assumptions made about going and getting a bar job instead of going to university. If you want to make that choice properly, and I'm not sure I did, to be honest, if I'm being really honest with you, when I made my choice, I think I knew a lot about going to university, and I'd heard a lot from other people about the downsides of going out into the world of work and starting your career. Mm-hmm. So everyone's different. But if there's one big piece of advice, it would be absolutely certain on what your options are, what you're trying to achieve, and to work backwards, because you might be surprised that actually it's not the university route which will help you achieve that in the best possible way. Brilliant.
Thank you so much for your time, Ollie, even though you're having to take time out away from your normal business to help another business.
That's all right.
Always giving. It's been a delight to speak to you, and I'll see you again soon.
Lovely to chat with you. Thank you so much, Jen.
Thanks, Ollie.
And finally, a huge thank you to our trusted partner Zonal for their support with this podcast series. They work with thousands of independent hospitality operators across the UK and have EPOS rental packages available designed specifically for pubs to help increase efficiency and boost revenue. For more information about what Zonal's technology can do for your pub, please do visit their website.